I'm 82 years old, and the words I needed most I kept locked inside my chest until it was too late. If you're listening right now, please don't make my mistake. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, the same one my husband built in 1969. The wood is worn smooth where my hands have rested for decades. Outside, the maple tree is losing its leaves again. Another autumn, another reminder that time doesn't ask permission. People think old age brings peace. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it brings memories that won't stay quiet. And tonight, one of them is begging to be told. I was born in 1943 in a small town where everyone knew your business before you did. My name is Eleanor, though everyone called me Ellie back then. I had dark hair that curled no matter how much I tried to tame it, and a laugh that filled rooms. I believed in love, big, dramatic love, the kind you saw in old movies, where women ran barefoot through fields and men waited at train stations. When I was 19, I met Harold. It was 1962. I worked at the local diner, and he came in every Thursday at exactly 7:10 a.m. Black coffee, 2 sugars, no cream. He always sat in the same booth near the window. One morning, I accidentally spilled coffee on his sleeve. I was mortified. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," I said, grabbing napkins. He smiled and said, "I was hoping you'd notice me eventually." I married him 2 years later. We didn't have much. A tiny house with peeling paint, 1 bathroom, and a furnace that clanked like it was coughing itself awake every winter. But we were happy. I thought happiness was something you earned by being responsible, by keeping your head down, by not rocking the boat. I learned early that emotions were messy, dangerous. My mother cried a lot. My father drank. I promised myself I would be strong. So I became quiet, not silent, just careful. I showed love by cooking, cleaning, remembering birthdays, folding his socks the way he liked. I didn't say things out loud. I thought he knew. Isn't that what everyone assumes? He worked long hours at the factory. I stayed home when the children were small. We had 2, Margaret and Thomas. The house was always noisy then. Cartoons in the morning, slammed doors, laughter down the hallway. I told myself, this is enough, but sometimes late at night, I would lie next to Harold, listening to his breathing, and feel words pressing against my ribs. I love you. I'm scared. I miss you even when you're here. I wish you would hold me without me asking. I never said them. I didn't want to be needy. Strong women didn't ask for more. So I swallowed the words, and life kept moving. In 1987, Harold was offered a promotion. It meant longer hours, more stress, more distance, but it also meant money, stability. He asked me what I thought. I said, "Whatever you think is best." What I meant was, "I'm scared you'll disappear." But I didn't say that. Margaret was 16 then. Thomas was 13. Teenagers, distant, always somewhere else. The house got quieter. I filled the silence with laundry and grocery lists and small talk with neighbors. Harold came home later and later. When he sat at the table, his eyes looked tired. Sometimes I'd open my mouth to ask him how he really was, and then I'd think, don't bother him. So I'd say, "Dinner's in the oven." One night he looked at me and said, "Ellie, do you ever feel lonely?" I laughed. Actually laughed. I said, "We're married. How could I be lonely?" He nodded, but something in his eyes dimmed. That moment still follows me. Years passed. The kids grew up, moved out, built lives of their own. Phone calls got shorter. Visits got rarer. Harold and I became polite roommates. We were kind, never cruel, but we stopped touching unless it was necessary. We stopped asking deep questions. We became quiet. I thought that was what long marriages looked like. Then, in 2004, Harold collapsed at work. Heart attack. I remember the hospital hallway, the smell of disinfectant, the beeping machines, his hand in mine, cold and fragile. He woke up once, just once. He looked at me and whispered, "Did I do okay?" I didn't understand. I said, "Of course you did." He closed his eyes, and he never opened them again. I was 61. At his funeral, people said things like, "He was a good man," and "You were lucky to have each other." I nodded. I smiled. I thanked them. And inside, something was screaming, because I realized something terrible. I had loved him deeply, but I had never told him how deeply. Not really. Not the way it mattered. Grief is strange. It doesn't come like a wave. It seeps. It waits until you're alone, folding laundry, and then it grabs your chest. I started finding things. A note in his wallet. Ellie's favorite flower, daisies. A grocery list in his handwriting. A birthday card he never got to give me. And suddenly I couldn't breathe, because he had been paying attention all that time, and I had been hiding. I started replaying moments, the nights I turned away in bed, the times he reached for my hand and I was too busy, the conversations I ended too quickly. I thought I was being strong. I was being afraid. Years passed. I got older, slower. My hands started to shake when I held my teacup. Margaret moved to another state. Thomas called on holidays. I told everyone I was fine. I was not fine. I talked to Harold out loud sometimes. Sitting in the living room, I'd say, "I should have told you more." No one answered. Then one day I found an old tape recorder in a box, one of those little handheld ones. I pressed play. It was Harold's voice. He had recorded a message for the kids, and at the end he said, "And to your mother, I hope she knows how much I love her. I never say it enough." I sat on the floor and sobbed, because he thought he hadn't said it enough, and I hadn't said it at all, not the real words, not the vulnerable ones. Time didn't heal that. It taught me, but it didn't erase. I started noticing how often people hold back, how often they say it's fine when it's not, how often they wait. I had waited my whole life. For what? The right moment? It never came. Now I walk slower. My knees ache. My reflection looks like someone else. I talk to my houseplants. I eat dinner alone. And sometimes I imagine what my life would feel like if I had been brave. If I had said, "I love you" more. If I had said, "I need you." If I had said, "Please don't drift away from me." Would it have changed everything? I don't know. But I know it would have changed me. I've learned that silence is not strength. It's fear dressed up as dignity. I've learned that people can't read your heart, no matter how long they've known you. I've learned that love unspoken becomes regret, and regret is heavy. I'm not angry at my younger self. She was trying to survive. She thought being easy to live with was the same as being loved. She thought asking for more was selfish. She was wrong. Love is not fragile, but time is. I look at my grandchildren now. They climb onto my lap, sticky fingers and loud laughter. They tell me they love me without hesitation. I tell them back, every time, no saving it, no waiting. If I could speak to my 30-year-old self, I wouldn't tell her to work harder or save more money. I would tell her to speak, to open her mouth even when her voice shakes, to say the thing she's afraid to say, because one day the person you wanted to say it to might not be there, and then you'll carry it forever. If someone came to your mind while you were listening to me, don't ignore that. That's not an accident. That's your heart asking you to be brave. I waited 82 years to understand this. You don't have to. Tell them what you feel. Today, not tomorrow, not someday. Today. If this story stayed with you, stay here with me. There are more truths I wish I had learned sooner.